Hey, I'm Slash, and you're watching MULATSCHAG, the only TV you really need.
You grew up in the Potteries. Is that why you're so talented with your hands?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I don't think I I don't even know how to answer that. I don't know if the Potteries and guitar playing have anything connected or not.
I was just kidding anyway. Since your mother did outfits for David Bowie, have you ever met Bowie as a child back then?
Yeah. Bowie and you know, I mean, my mom made clothes for a lot of people, so I met a lot of entertainers when I was but she was pretty close to David, so I saw him a lot for a period of time there. Yeah.
I mean, how do you remember the time then? Was it like interesting for you seeing people perform or, you know, dress up or, you know, doing rehearsals and stuff?
Yeah. It was pretty cool. I mean, you know, when you're a kid, you sort of just go along with things. But I do remember being fascinated by a lot of it, you know, especially being in the studio and watching people record. I think I was always fascinated by gear, you know, guitars, drums. I always loved, like, we go to a club or we go to a concert and before the band even played, just being completely transfixed by the stage setup and not having any clue that that's what I was going to end up doing later on in life, you know. But I loved the pace of everything because I came from a small town in England originally, which is a very quiet sort of village type atmosphere, and moved to Los Angeles, and it was this whole big sort of entertainment scene, you know. And for a little kid, it just, you know, it's TV, it's fucking awesome, you know. So yeah, I definitely was pretty fascinated with all that.
When and how have you met Myles Kennedy?
I met Myles when I was making my last record with all the different singers. At one point, the final stage of the record, I had two songs that I hadn't figured out who should sing them. And I'd been hearing a lot about Myles Kennedy, and I just thought, well, let's see what happens. And I got his number and called him up, and we've never physically met, you know. And I wasn't even really familiar with his voice. I just heard so many great things about it. It was really a shot in the dark. And called him up, and he was interested, and I sent him some music. And he sent me a demo back with his vocals on it, and I was just floored. I thought it was amazing, you know. And so I flew him to Los Angeles from Spokane, and we met for the first time, and I really liked him. He was a really very cool, down-to-earth guy. We recorded a studio version of Starlight for the record, and then we went to do another song called Back from Cali at the very last minute. And then I asked him if he wanted to do the tour. And that's basically how this all started.
I mean, it's one thing to hire a singer, but it's another thing to, you know, to write and collaborate at this close level for a whole record.
Well, I mean, we actually started out collaborating. I mean, because the first song that I sent him which ended up being Starlight. He wrote the lyrics, and he just did everything to the music that I gave him, and he edited a couple different little pieces to make it fit the words and so on. So I mean, we really started out collaborating, but when we were on the road and basically came to the terms with, you know, doing a record together, we just started writing on the road, and it was a very simple, very organic process for us. But I think as artists, we have a really good chemistry, and as people too. So it's just a natural thing. You know, as soon as you have to butt heads at the very beginning, you know, I mean, it's probably going to be difficult all throughout. But this is started off very effortless.
Any jealousy calls from Mark Tremonti?
No, I'm friends with Mark. So
sure.
I mean, the cool thing about Alter Bridge and what it is that Myles and I do is they're so completely different, you know, and I think that's why we manage to coexist as well as we do.
I'm sure you've met Mr. Lester William Paulsfuss, Les Paul.
What'd you call him?
Oh, that was his real. Paulsfuss, yeah.
I've known Les for a long time, and I never knew that. I can't mock him in death, though. You know.
Have you ever jammed together?
Oh yeah, Les is awesome. One of the most important people that I've met in my career was definitely Les Paul. And the first time that he and I met, we jammed that night, and he wiped the stage up with me. You know, I went in there drunk and fucking thought we'll get up and do some blues, and it was like, it's not going to be that easy. And I've gauged my progress as a guitar player by how well over the years I could jam with Les. And,
That's excellent. So you were really close then?
well, you know, pretty close. I would consider Les a good friend and somebody I could call at any given time and love to hang out with, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And you also, of course, I mean, Slash and the Gibson Company, I mean, that's like together for decades now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I started out, when I first got an electric guitar, it was a Les Paul copy. So I sort of naturally gravitated towards that guitar, because back then I didn't know anything about guitars at all. I was completely ignorant. And so I think it was a natural, I think the guitar sort of picked me, you know, the Les Paul sort of style. And at that time, I didn't even know who Les Paul was. You know, I hate to admit it, my grandmother told me who he was. And, then I started listening to Les Paul, Mary Ford records and whatnot. But yeah, over the years, I always used Les Pauls. And then finally in the 80s, Gibson and I had a formal meet. And, I started working with Gibson and getting guitars directly from them. And at this point, we've done a bunch of Les Paul sort of Slash signature guitars, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. One other thing, there are tons of pictures with you and Snakes, of course. You supported not only the L.A.Zoo, but zoos around the world. Why is that? And when did you start with that?
Well, I think it started really when I was a little kid living in England, and it was the London Zoo, and my whole thing with reptiles. I mean, there was the Natural History Museum and Crystal Palace with all the dinosaurs. So I never grew out of that. But I've always been a staunch animal supporter. I've always been fascinated with animals, and when I moved to Los Angeles, I became a regular at the L.A.Zoo, and then over the years got closer and closer association with them, and now I'm on the board of directors there. And so I'm not a huge supporter of the concept of zoos, circuses, all that sort of animal exploitation kind of thing, but over the years, because of conservation and so on and so forth, zoos have actually become a driving force in the preservation of a lot of species, and there's a lot of knowledge that has been shared throughout the zoo community, and have really become something more of a sanctuary for a lot of endangered species and so on and so forth, and also providing a lot of education for people to sort of know more about the impact that our world has on the animals, or how humanity has on animals, and so on and so forth. So now I'm a lot bigger supporter of the zoo and zoos in general, that are all sort of getting on board with breeding and so on. So I mean, the original concept of zoos was just put animals up for exhibit, and it wasn't. So. Yeah.
Have you been to the Vienna Zoo?
I have, a long time ago. It's been a while.
Yeah, you should go there. It's quite new now.
Any time, because on days off,
oh yeah, true.
To guys like you.
Whenever there is time, because it's the oldest.
Yeah, I know. And the last time I went was in the '90s, so I'm due for a visit.
Yeah, things have changed since then.
I'm sure.
When did you realize which country are you in today?
What do you mean?
Do you have a tour manager telling you, "Hey man, wake up! It's Austria"?
I can read my own day sheet. It's not like in the days when I used to get, I'd be plastered, wake up the next morning and not know where I was. I've been pretty sober for a while now, so I'm very coherent of my surroundings.
How does that feel?
Well, it's been like 7 years now, so I'm sort of used to it. But it's good. I think that
no headaches in the morning.
Well, I mean, the headaches. I mean, the way I learned about dealing with headaches way early on, which was just drink. So that became my motto for years, right? But anyway, I guess finally burned out on all that. And so at this point, since I just started working, like 2006, ever since then, it's been very, very productive. Prior to that, it was hit or miss, so it's all good.
Do you still have a laugh when you hear Poison, when you think of the band Poison?
I don't know if I don't really think about that. I have nothing against Poison per se, and I really don't dwell on Poison. I know what you're getting at, but that was a long time ago, and it was really just a quick passing thing. Whereas like, oh, they need a guitar player, maybe I'll do that. I never expected anything to come from it, and when nothing did come from it, I never thought about it again. So.
Of course, you've worked with so many great musicians because yourself, you are a great musician. Is there anyone who declined you? You called and said, "Hey, are you interested?" Or people you still want to work with?
Well, there's definitely. I mean, when I set out to make the last record with all that, I didn't have a list of people that I wanted to work with. I had written the music first, and I chose artists that fit the music, right? So there's a huge amount of people that I didn't work with that I would love to have the opportunity to work with in that same capacity if I ever do another record like that. But nobody turned me down directly and said, fuck you, I'm not doing it. It wasn't like that. I had a couple situations with schedules and stuff like that. But other than that, everything sort of worked out for the best, no matter what.
Lenny Kravitz, you went to the same school, right?
Yeah,
Beverly High.
High school, yeah.
Funny thing, because I always thought, why haven't you started a band?
What, with Lenny?
Yeah.
Lenny?
Yeah.
Well, because Lenny's got his thing, and I always had my thing, and I think there was a point there where there was a rumor going around that he was going to sing with Velvet Revolver. I think someone, which I thought was really interesting, but of course there was no truth to it. But yeah. I don't think Lenny, he's got a guitar player, and he's,
Other thing, that goes through your whole career history, especially in America, is censorship of curse words. What do you think?
Don't do that.
What do you think about that? That they still censor curse words in music?
I don't know. I never even really think about it. I mean, I came from, in the 80s, there was a whole big censorship thing going on with Tipper Gore and all
the
that
PMRC.
PMRC. Since then, they want a warning sticker on every record that has shit, fuck, piss, damn, hell, whatever on it. And it's like, whatever, I mean, the more stickers you put on it, the more kids want to buy them, so I don't really spend too much time concerning myself.
I love that sticker.
Yeah. I said, I just want to make the whole cover a big sticker,
But things have changed. Do you want to say that? Or is it still similar?
It's still there. It's not, swearing is not as much of a taboo in the, entertainment industry or on radio as it used to be, but it's still, you can't get away with saying fuck on the radio, on live radio. And you definitely can't get away with saying it on TV, but it's not as bad as it was. Well, the thing is swearing is not like a directive where it's like I need to go out and swear to be cool. Swear is just a sort of natural. Yeah. So it's not like you go out there and say, God, they won't let me say X, whatever word it is, and you get really upset about it. It's not like a priority in one's speech to make sure that that's heard. At least for me, anyway. It's just something that naturally happens, and you don't want to get interrupted in the conversation because you said a swear word. Just a simple way of expressing yourself that's probably the most expressive word that you can use,
Worldwide energy crisis, they're saying like there's no oil next 50 years. Any plans how to get electricity for your guitar stand? I mean, do you have solar panels on your...
I don't have solar panels, and I haven't really started giving it that much thought yet, to be honest. I'm more concerned with you know, like on tour buses, why you don't have you know, your regular trash can on the tour bus, and then you have your one for plastics and so on and so forth.
Have you changed that on your
I'm
own?
working on that one. That sort of gets to me.
Is there a Slash movie?
Well, there is a. Do you know about that? Or are you just asking out of? No, because I'm producing.
Just a shot in the blue.
I'm producing horror movies, so I have one that we just finished production on, and we're editing right now. And I say we, but the director is back in L.A. editing it, and I'm waiting to see what it looks like. But it should be, the stuff I saw in the dailies is amazing. So that comes out next year, and then I'm looking at a new script as we speak.
So you're showing Rob Zombie how to do good horror movies.
Well, I mean, it's the production company is called Slasher Films, but it's actually the antithesis of the slasher film. It's psychologically scary concept, character-driven, story-driven, you know? So it's not your typical, like, let's see how much blood we can fit into every sequence, you know? It's a little bit more intellectual than that, you know? So I mean, I'm having a blast doing it. It's a great outlet that I have a lot of aptitude for that I didn't know that I had, you know? So it's called Nothing to Fear. It was a script that was written by a very, very talented writer, but there was no actual book. Hey, I'm Slash, and you're watching MULATSCHAG, the only TV you really need.
MULATSCHAG!